Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
This is the major leagues. Anybody can run you out of the ballpark, and that's what happened there at the end. Just kind of hang around. Offensively, we did some great plate appearances and great night.
No, sir. I don't know where I'm going to be picked. You can interview with a lot of teams and don't meet with one and end up being drafted by the one you didn't meet with. So you never know.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network here on a lovely Wednesday afternoon. The rain has moved through the capital city. Some cool air has moved in, makes for a pleasant Wednesday afternoon, and we're so happy to have you with us here on Sports Talk around the state of South Carolina. 800-956-7266 is our number if you'd like to join us. Our email is talkback@sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, we are at SportsTalkSC. Phil Kornblut and the Professor Tom Hayes with you tonight. The empty chair, if you're watching our video stream, at the bottom of our webpage, sportstalksc.com. The empty chair tonight, tomorrow night, and Friday night will be Kevin McCrary. He is away on network business duties in St. Louis. In fact, they're going to take in a cards game, I think, tomorrow night in St. Louis as part of the meetings. So anyway, good to have you with us. Lots to talk about. We're going to get into a whole bunch of different stuff. Got a lot of recruiting that we will share with you. Mick Mixon, the voice of the Panthers, will be here at the bottom of the hour to talk about the Panthers draft coming up tomorrow night. In our second hour, Buddy Pugh of South Carolina State will join us to talk spring football and update us on any of his guys, his seniors, who might be selected or might be going free agent for the NFL. We got all that coming up for you tonight and a whole lot more. Mike Morgan will be along with our Braves report after they blew one big time last night. 9-1 lead, 10-2 lead, can't hang on to the lead. And Dan Uggla, not saying he got the last laugh. I mean, he's still struggling. He was batting only 135 going into last night's game. But with the fans booing him and knowing that he's pocketing $78,000 per game from the Braves, not to play for the Braves, he had a 3-run homer to help the Nationals complete their biggest rally in team history.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is when Grilly didn't get the third strike call on the full count pitch to the batter previous to that, it was borderline. I said, well, this sets the stage. And being a baseball fan, you almost sit there and say, yeah, you know it's going to happen. And then, of course, he hit the home run. But it's interesting. It brings me to flashbacks of Dan Uggla when he was with the Marlins, and the fact that Dan Uggla liked hitting in Atlanta if it was Braves pitching. As soon as he put on an Atlanta uniform, he couldn't hit. And so being back in Atlanta in a foreign uniform, I think is more comfortable for him than playing in the city of Atlanta.
And, of course, today we had that game in Baltimore at Camden Yards between the Orioles and the White Sox. No fans were allowed in the game, just media and team personnel and Major League scouts were allowed in. And the Orioles gave their fans something to feel good about, a big win. We'll be right back. And we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia Main Street. Sports Talk, your Sports Talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. Good to have you with us wherever you are dialed in, no matter what you're doing. If you're out for a ride, maybe heading home from a hard day's work, maybe you're out playing a little bit of golf and listening to us. Maybe you're out hitting some tennis balls, dropping a line in the water, going out for a walk or a jog, cooking dinner, washing up the kids, taking out the garbage, changing the oil in your car, whatever it is you happen to be doing and you're listening to Sports Talk, we certainly do appreciate it. We don't take you for granted. Glad to have you with us each and every night. 800-956-7266 is our number. Couple of things to tell you about. Just seeing where Billy Donovan at Florida, according to reports, leaning heavily towards taking the job at Oklahoma City and saying goodbye to the Florida Gators. Did this once before, but he came back after a brief stay with Orlando. But this sounds more serious. This one sounds like he is really serious about heading to the NBA.
It also sounds like a guy who really was aggressive on the recruiting trail and now has had some hiccups. The way it's doing now, these transfers and stuff, I'm sick of this. I'm going to the NBA. I mean, at least now I can go on the waiver wire. If a guy isn't playing ball, I can run him off and nobody says anything. It's how can I put this? You don't want to say he's making a career change out of frustration, but it spells that way, does it not?
It's a different world, dealing with professional versus everything you have to put up with on the college side of things. I can understand why coaches would want to make the move, not the least of which would be the money. Of course, he's well compensated for what he does at Florida. So certainly looks like Florida is going to lose their basketball coach. And where will they turn? What will they do?
They'll turn to the assistant they just hired.
Well, that's what we thought when this first came out. Will they turn to Anthony Grant, even though he was, he wasn't a failure at Alabama. He just didn't get them to a high level and keep them there.
Well, the key point, I think, for Anthony Grant that people have to remember, if you're a Florida fan and just a fan of college basketball, is like Frank Martin, and they grew up together in Miami. You're the head coach of the University of Florida. And whether people always talk about, Miami is a hotbed for football. It's also a hotbed for basketball talent. Mm-hmm. And you've got a guy from Miami going into Miami, head coach of the University of Florida. He could mine Miami. And pretty much that may be all he has, and then augment that with some recruits out of state, and he's got it made.
All right, 800-956-7266, the number here on Sports Talk on this Wednesday night. Got some open lines if you want to join in on the program and share your thoughts, your comments, your questions, your observations with us tonight. A couple of things to mention. We'll get a full recruiting report coming up for you here in a little bit, but Eric Cobb is on his official visit to USC. We confirmed that with his coach this afternoon, the 6'10" center. But remember I told you that I wasn't 100% convinced about Eric visiting South Carolina. I never could get it confirmed. Well, I did reach his coach this afternoon, and he said Eric Holman is really not doing anything with South Carolina. Not visiting, at least not today, not this week. He said the kid has talked with USC, but at the present time has no plans to visit. Texas is on him strong. He had a good relationship with Shaka Smart when he was at VCU. So if he visits anywhere right now, it would be Texas, his coach said. And the kid is also considering going to Hargrave Prep in Virginia. That appears to be a strong possibility for him as well.
Where is he from now?
He is from Owensboro, Kentucky.
Okay. That's the kid you were talking about last night.
So he is not visiting South Carolina today. We'll give you more recruiting coming up in a little bit. Major League Baseball this afternoon, we mentioned the Orioles in that fanless game at Camden Yards. That was a surreal scene, watching the goings-on there. And they give their hometown something to feel good about. They win 8-2. Houston beat San Diego 7-2. Detroit over Minnesota 10-7. In 13, Tampa Bay beat the Yankees 3-2. The Yankees struck out 16 times in the game. 16 punch-outs for Tampa Bay pitching. Milwaukee beat Cincinnati 8-3. Braves coming up tonight against the Nationals. Alex Wood going to the mound. More on that later. Kansas City and Cleveland, they're scoreless, getting underway, as are Toronto and Boston. Speaking of baseball, D1Baseball.com has come out with their updated NCAA tournament field. It does not include Clemson. It does not include USC among the 64 teams. The only teams from our state included, they've got the College of Charleston as a number 2 seed playing in Illinois, that regional, with Illinois a number 8 national seed. And they've got Coastal Carolina, a number 2 seed, going out to Phoenix to play out there with Arizona State, the number 1 seed. No Gamecocks, no Tigers. They project your top 8 national seeds to be UCLA. This is in order: UCLA, LSU, Louisville, Texas A&M, TCU, Vanderbilt, Florida State, and Illinois. When did Illinois become good in baseball? Quietly, they have. I see they've got Kentucky in the field. They've got Ole Miss in the field, North Carolina, Virginia, Louisville. Got Louisville in there. Texas A&M, mentioned them. Arkansas is in as a 2 seed. Miami is a host and a number 1 seed. Maryland is in as a number 2 seed. They've got Auburn in as a number 2 seed. Auburn up and coming. Got them in as a number 2 seed. Georgia Tech is a 3 seed. Florida hosting as a 1 seed. And Notre Dame in as a 3 seed. So that's it for your SEC, ACC teams that they project at this point. This is D1 baseball. Man, oh man, would it be a quiet last half of May, first part of June around here with no Gamecocks, no Tigers in the NCAA tournament. Not to take anything away from the teams in our state who might be in the tournament, but not having the Gamecocks and Tigers in there. First time in a long, long time that would be the case. And that would be a shock to the system because, let's face it, we've all become spoiled by their success, and we take it for granted. And you just can't take it for granted. It's not a birthright. You have to earn it every year, but and they haven't earned it by any means.
No.
But the good news is they've still got a chance. I mean, the ball is in their hands, so to speak. They both have enough games left against quality opponents that if they win enough games, they will get in. But they've got to go win games somehow.
Well, it's difficult at this point now because, as I said before, I have not seen, and I'm not in the dugout, I'm not in the locker room, I'm not in the suites or the dorms or anything. But this team, for whatever reason, both teams, it seems like the leadership is not there. But then again, you think about it, they're high. I mean, we've seen flashes of brilliance from both Clemson and South Carolina, but they've been inconsistent. Now, tell me this, and just off the top of my head, does either one even have a 5-game winning streak this season?
Well, the Gamecocks had a 10-game winning streak.
That's right.
Early in the year,
yeah.
after the great start. Clemson, they had one little hot stretch. I don't remember how long the winning streak was. I can tell you, but outside of that, no, the Tigers have not been able to put together an extended winning streak to this point in the season. Let's see, their longest winning streak, 1, 2, 3. They had a 5-game winning streak that included those first included that opening win over South Carolina. Then the Gamecocks snapped it. So they had a 5-game winning streak early in the season. Outside of that, they had a 4-game winning streak. The Tigers did until they lost at Georgia.
Well, before
so they had a 5-game streak and a 4-game streak.
Yeah, before this weekend, I would have told you the odds-on favorite if you had to pick one, it would have been Clemson, because I thought that Clemson had upward mobility inside the ACC after winning 2 straight series, and I figured they would take at least 2 out of 3 from Georgia Tech, and then suddenly they dropped the ball in Atlanta, and so now it looked like they're on the skids right now.
800-956-7266. We'll be right back. Man, great NBA playoff game last night between the Clippers and the Spurs. You just can't kill the Spurs. They now lead that series 3 games. It was a great NBA playoff game. But I tell you what, did you stay up and watch it?
No way in the world.
Yeah. For those who did, they were doing the Hackett Jordan thing in the second half, third quarter in particular, and they finally forced Doc Rivers to take him out. And I hate that. I hate it. And I understand. I mean, you got a guy that is a 50% or worse free throw shooter. Your odds are in your favor, especially in those pressure situations that he's not going to make both. He might make one. You've got a chance to go down and score 2 or 3 and get an advantage that way. And San Antonio did.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got to come up with a new rule. I know they have the rule in the last 5 minutes of the game.
You can't do it.
Can't do it. Mm-hmm. They get the ball. How about this? How about, let's just say, in a quarter, last 5 minutes of the game stays the same, but in a quarter, you can't do it more than, say, 3 consecutive trips down the floor. Hack a guy like that intentionally to put him on the line. After the third time, the fourth time, they get the ball as well as the free throws. You got to do something to change that, because that's just – I know it doesn't happen much around the league. I guess it's just a few individual cases where the free throw shooter is so bad. Dwight Howard, you would do it with him. Jordan, you would do it with him. I mean, are there any others who are so atrocious at the foul line that you'd hack, who are so good that you would hack away at and put them on the line?
No, but the freakish thing about it is when I look at Jordan, his release isn't that bad. I can work with him. Now, I will say this. He lets the ball roll down in his palm. That's a no-no. He doesn't bend his legs, and he doesn't exhale when he shoots.
Of course, I guess it's things. I guess that's, as much as it irks me, I guess it's no different than really like an intentional walk to a home run hitter. You don't want to pitch to him, you intentionally walk him because
it breaks up the rhythm.
Oh,
it
really does. It really broke up the flow of the game last night. And it really affected the Clippers. Not only because he was missing free throws and the Spurs were going down and scoring and building a lead, but it just took them out of their offense. And then once they got him out of the game and they put Big Baby in, they got it going again.
Yeah.
Then they put Jordan back in. They left him alone. He went up and down the court. They had a couple of lobs to him and he slammed it. And then they started hacking him again. I get it. The other thing, though, I had to stay up because, you got to watch a Greg Popovich press conference. It's just, I'm sorry I missed the in-game quote unquote interview with him because that's always classic. I missed it last night. They did him in the second quarter. I missed that part, but I did stay up to watch his post-game press conference, and he was actually pretty decent last night. He elaborated on some things, but do not ask him an obvious question. My God, he just cannot stomach the obvious stupid question.
I can understand.
And he will politely tear you down.
Oh yeah.
He is tough as nails in that way. All right, bottom of the hour break is coming up. The voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, on the other side. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Mick Mixon to join us in just a moment. Update a couple of other stories. Former Gamecock cornerback Stephon Gilmore, Buffalo Bills, they have exercised their right to pick up the fifth-year option on his rookie contract. So he'll be there through 2016. He's had a really nice career. 10th pick in the 2012 draft. Has 6 interceptions in his career thus far. But one of his former teammates, Gamecock safety DJ Swearinger, on the trading block, reportedly with the Houston Texans. He was taken in the 2013. He has started 22 games. He was a second-round draft pick in 2013, played in 32 games so far, starting 22, but apparently they want to make a trade for him for some reason. I don't know why you'd want to get rid of DJ Swearinger. I think he is a great football player. I loved him in college, and I think he's kept it going. In the end, takes us to our buddy, the voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, who has no doubt been sitting in the war room with the Panthers hierarchy, kind of hinting about some of the guys they should be picking in the draft. Is that true?
Only way I could get in there is if I borrowed one of the caterer uniforms and pulled my hat down really low and pretended like I was delivering the salmon croquettes one night. It's interesting, though, Corn. I'm glad to be talking to you guys. I can report to you that the stadium is on fire. I mean, it is a huge amount of excitement with the scouts back in town now. They've been out on the road doing what they do. The board is done. The board's been done vertically, horizontally. The Panthers stridently believe that you don't reach based on need. It's that whole best player available thing. Who do you think the Panthers are going to end up with?
You may ask Pro. Pro, who do you think they're going to end up with?
I think they probably need to look at seriously where they're drafting right now. I would look for an offensive tackle. I mean, I need to protect my meal ticket to quarterback.
I would tell you that looking at the analyst picks, that's what they're saying. DJ Humphries or Eric Flowers or Andrus Peat. What do you think? Is that what every expert here? They have got the Panthers going with an offensive tackle. So that's what it looks like. And
it's a deep tackle draft. I mean, Eric Flowers, if Flowers was available, I mean, I love that kid out of Miami, 6'6", 330. Got a mean streak in it. That's the Eric Flowers thing. Maybe a little bit better run blocker now, kind of a mauler. His pass sets could use some work, but very coachable in that area. Seems like TJ Clemmings' stock might have slipped a little. He's athletic, former defensive lineman. Maybe the best right tackle available in the draft, but you know, DJ Humphries, a great name, Corn, that you mentioned from Florida. Lyle Collins from LSU, maybe some legal issues swirling around him. I ran it through the filter before I knew Graham was going to call me, and I'd be talking with you, August sports journalist, was what can I tell Pro and Phil and them that they may not already know? You probably already know this, but what intel can I bring? I just don't know who the Panthers are going to draft because obviously we don't know who's going to be off the board. But I can tell you this. I think this is interesting. Dave Gettleman, our general manager, gym rat, film studier par excellence. I mean, he's not going to win Toastmaster General for being out on the Rotary clubs and all. He lets other people do that, but he is really a football savant. He loves to watch, particularly linemen. He loves to watch how these young men compete when they're getting their rear ends kicked. So if you could rack up the tape, let's just say, I don't know, let's just say TJ Clemmings, for example. How's he doing? How's he competing if Pitt is down 49-17 late fourth quarter? There may be only a handful of plays, but they're going to be diagnostic in a very meaningful way. This is what the Panthers want, these high-character guys that are going to take it, they're going to make it personal, they're going to fight till the bitter end.
Well, here's an interesting thought here, Mick. The Panthers, if I'm not mistaken, have about, 8-9 picks in this draft. 2 of them, compensatory picks in the 5th round. You got 3 picks in the 5th round. I mean, is it possible if the Panthers see their guy in the upper regions of the draft, say 15 on up, and they play with a couple of those 5th round picks and maybe switch the #1 pick with somebody to move up to get the guy they think they want?
Maybe. Prior to the 2 compensatory fifths, I would have said no. The Panthers with the 25th pick in each of the draft's 7 rounds, probably not. But with the 2 fifths, making it 3 fifth-round draft choices, maybe. The problem, Pro, is that trading, think about it in terms of, I don't know how it is there in Columbia. You probably got deep relationships with all these car dealers, but if you go in with the idea of, I'm going to trade, here's my 2011, I really want a 2015, you can do it, but it's going to cost you. There's going to be some vigorish little chalk there that's got to be paid. So teams know you want to move. The price tag can really go up, but it's not off the table.
And of course, you can't trade the compensatory picks. You can only trade your 5th-round pick.
You can only trade where you fall naturally.
Okay.
But of course, it really doesn't that much. The compensatory picks will give you that safety net. We could do a menu item. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm sure Draftniks have. There's fifth round draft picks are valuable. It's not like a throwaway.
Talking with Mick Mixon, voice of the Carolina Panthers. So things will be taking place in Chicago. Give us some idea what goes on around Panther headquarters, the drafts in Chicago this year, who's headed out there to handle things, and what will be going on back at the stadium as the draft is taking place.
We'll send a contingent out there to Chicago to man the phones and to be out there. Here in Charlotte, Corn, we'll have a draft party at the Hickory Tavern tomorrow night, 6:30 to 9. We'll have some members of last year's draft class. We'll have myself will be your humble MC, along with Eugene Robinson from the Panthers Radio Network. There'll be Sir Purr, the Top Cats, wide open to the public. Information available online at Panthers.com. And then we'll be producing a lot of TV and radio shows. Our internet boys will be working all into the night to bring you complete coverage of the 2015 NFL Draft from Chicago and from Charlotte.
That sounds great. Looking forward to it. We'll check out the website. And of course, you'll be there, too, when they start to parade the draft picks through Charlotte for the various news conferences. It'll be coming up, I guess, over the weekend, the first part of next week.
Well, they like having me up there with the draft picks, mainly because the athletes look much better and more physically imposing standing there next to me.
A stick would look physically imposing.
Oh, God.
Set up next to you.
Oh, man, I know. I'm trying. It's a little pitiful, though. The electric door at the Harris Teeter doesn't even open for me.
What do you think is going to happen at the front end? You think Tampa Bay will go with Winston? Do you think we're going to see a big move up by the Browns in particular to try and get Mariota?
I really do. I think Mariota's coveted by Philadelphia, by the Browns. The Titans could use him. I think the number 2 pick in the draft is going to be more interesting than the number 1 overall pick. And then from there, it's just anybody's guess. The couple mock drafts I looked at today, all the players that I think that the Panthers really covet had come off the board early. So I think it's going to be interesting tomorrow night. I think, wide receiver, running back, O-line, I think even linebacker, it's all possible for the Panthers at 25.
We look forward to it, Mick, and have yourself a great night and a great draft. We'll talk to you again soon. Look forward to seeing you here somewhere down the road.
Can't wait, fellas. Thanks for the visit.
Thank you, my man. Mick Mixon, the voice of the Panthers, joining us here on Sports Talk. Yeah, it seems like the Browns are willing to put a very strong package together to offer the Titans for that number 2 pick to go get Mariota. They're just, they can't get themselves happy with what they've got at quarterback.
And then if it's the Browns, you think they'll move up to the number 2 pick and then turn around and draft Leonard Williams, who people think is the best defensive lineman in the draft. And I can't argue with him because this guy can play tackle and in with great aplomb. But the interesting thing about the Panthers, getting back to them, they got to seriously think about it. I know people want to devalue the position, but I don't think you can devalue this. They got to think seriously in the later rounds about a running back. Their running backs are getting long in the tooth, and I think it's time maybe for a change.
Thanks to Mick Mixon. We'll be back. Mike Morgan on deck with our Braves Report. time for our Braves report tonight, brought to you by Play It Again Sports off Bauer Parkway in Columbia, where you will pay less for more. Chris Mosley and the friendly staff will help you with the best selection of golf clubs in the Midlands for adults and juniors. By Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals. And by Mattress by Appointment, real simple, you call, you save 50 to 80% on premium mattress sets. Call 803-530-8549. That's 803-530-8549. I'm not even sure a mattress from Mattress by Appointment helped the Braves sleep, Mike, after blowing that game last night. Big leads, 9-1 and more, and they can't hold on down the stretch. Largest comeback in the history of the Nationals. They pinned it on the Braves.
Yeah, not even a Stearns and Foster or one of those swanky ones, remote control and the lumbar support. Nothing would have helped last night. That was a tough pill to swallow. One of the more disappointing games that I've seen in my 6 years with this team, and it's been unbelievable to look back at that game, because really when you watched it in person, it was almost shocking to the point where you didn't really believe that just happened. The Braves squandered not one but 2 8-run leads, and the guy that was the hero is the guy that was so bad that they're still paying him money, $78,000 a game, in fact, to not play in a Braves uniform. So last night, Dan Uggla, in essence, collected a check for $78,000 from the Braves to defeat the Braves in heartbreaking fashion.
And so now the question is, how do they bounce back tonight? Alex Wood goes to the mound, but I mean, a loss like that, if you're not careful, that can stay with you for a while.
Well, this is where you really love Major League Baseball being an everyday sport, because if it was a football loss like that, you got to stew in it for a week, and that really doesn't help anybody. Sometimes a college game, if you have a really tough Sunday, you don't play again to a Wednesday night. So in this particular case, I think they didn't run to the ballpark. They sprinted. They wanted to get back out there and just kind of wipe the slate clean and get it started again. I think it could be more of a boost for the Nationals than it will be an absolute downer for the Braves. You're a big leaguer. You typically let that completely destroy your confidence and your frame of mind the next day. You've got Alex Wood on the hill. Julio Teheran has not pitched like an ace, and that's who squandered that lead last night. Really, Alex Wood has performed more like an ace this year, and so has Shelby Miller. So you like who you have on the mound for Atlanta. Now it's just a matter of keep scoring runs. I mean, that's the really disappointing thing about it, is that Atlanta, top to bottom, got incredible contributions from the lineup, and then, of course, just gave it away in the end.
Yeah, a lot of hits last night for the Braves, and 17, in fact. Freddie Freeman, A.J. Pierzynski had 4 hits apiece, but it all goes for naught. You mentioned Wood. He's been good against the Nationals, 3-1, 1.49 against them, so he likes facing their lineup.
He does. Now, that is, Jordan Zimmerman's had a lot of success against Atlanta, and I think he's one of the more unheralded pitchers in baseball. So the runs might be a little bit tougher to come by in tonight's ball game, but a good pitching matchup. If you're Atlanta, you're happy with Wood on the mound. That's fine. You want to continue to score. I think this game's going to have a lot different look to it. I don't see 25 runs on the board in this one. It might be closer to 5-4, more in that 9-run range, and a key play here or there will probably decide it.
And one more note about last night. I mean, Jason Grilli had been so good for the Braves, and he could not do his thing last night to help save the day.
I mean, here's the thing. Again, it's a gut punch followed by a couple in the crotch. You've got Dan Uggla down 0-2, okay? Dan Uggla, who's about as free a swinger as there is in Major League Baseball, you can get him to chase. 0-2, and what do? You serve him up a fastball over the plate, and he's been a dead fastball hitter his entire career. So that was just a tremendous mistake by Grilli. Overall, he's been fantastic, but that was a brutal mistake in a key spot, and obviously Dan Uggla was able to take advantage.
Yeah, those punches in the crotch there, that's why we wear those cups in baseball, right?
I don't think even the cup last night would have been enough to withstand the amount of force that was in the groin area.
All right, real quick, you're at Auburn tonight, Auburn-Kennesaw State on the SEC Network.
Yeah, the Auburn Tigers, I just had them in a sweep against Georgia. They very quietly won 8 of 9, and of course they'll be the game opponent right now. they're playing as hot as anybody in the league. They're not going to overwhelm you on offense. They're dead last in home runs in the league at 15, but they do all the little things well, and they've got good pitching. So you could be looking at a team in Columbia come Friday that's won 9 of 10, and that right now would probably be in the NCAA tournament. So this will be one of the teams that South Carolina will be battling for one of those bubble spots into the NCAA field.
All right, Mike, thank you. Have a great night tonight. We'll check you tomorrow night. Mike Morgan with our Braves report here on Sports Talk. All right, to the recruiting report, offensive lineman Bryce Matthews, 6'6", 280 of Brentwood. His dad played in the NFL, but he's not related to the famous Matthews family. They have 2 T's in their last name. He has only 1, so he's not related to the Clays or Jake or Bruce, but his dad did play for the Titans and the Colts. His dad is Jason Matthews, who played at BYU and then Texas A&M. Anyway, the younger Bryce Matthews, an offensive tackle, Clemson, Ohio State, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Louisville, Northwestern, Virginia. Those are his offers. He was at Clemson last weekend, his first trip there. Really liked it, really liked Coach Caldwell. Also been to Ole Miss, Tennessee, Ohio State, Vandy, Alabama, Texas A&M. No future visits are planned. And he said that Clemson would be on his short list if he were to narrow it down at this point. He said Clemson, Ole Miss, Tennessee recruiting the hardest. USC last night offered defensive back Chris Smith, 5'10", 178 of South Point. That's the biggest offer for him to date. Old Dominion, Mercer, Furman, Coastal, Campbell, Gardner-Webb, and Miami of Ohio offered him last night. So he was happy to get the offer from South Carolina, and he has moved South Carolina to the top of his list at this point, but he's not ready to commit right now. Of course, he comes from that community that has sent Clowney and Gilmore and Holloman and others to USC. He's been to Mercer, Louisville, and Charlotte. He plans to visit USC at some point. 71 tackles with 5 interceptions last season. Greer defensive back Troy Pride, offered by Maryland, still committed to Virginia Tech. USC offered offensive lineman Pete Leota of Asheville. Linebacker Dante Evans of Lawrenceville, Georgia, picked up an offer from Charlotte. Of course, he is from South Carolina. USC checked in on defensive end Jaquan Bailey of Jacksonville, a Florida commitment. Offensive lineman Clark Yarbrough of Woodbury Forest, Virginia, offered by Miami yesterday. Clemson in his top 5. Tight end Thaddeus Moss of Charlotte, offered by Georgia. He's a USC target. Defensive end Ron Johnson, Camden, New Jersey, offered by Arizona State, Tennessee, and Missouri, USC target. Defensive lineman Jabari Ellis of Lake Marion, offered by Western Carolina. Also has offers from Miami, SC State, and Georgia Southern. His teammate, defensive end Emmanuel Wall, offered by Western Carolina. Defensive back Kareem Felder of Baltimore announcing on Saturday for his second commitment. He was once committed to Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Ohio State, the top 2. Offensive lineman John Simpson of Fort Dorchester will visit Clemson Saturday. Defensive lineman Tyler Wallace of Milton, Florida, plans to visit USC. The Gamecocks have offered linebacker Cash Daniel of Paintsville, Kentucky. He also has offers from Kentucky and Louisville. Clemson offered 2017 defensive back Chris Ingram, Mooresville, North Carolina. In basketball, 6'10" Eric Cobb is at USC visiting. 6'9" Eric Holman of Owensboro, Kentucky, is not visiting USC. 6'7" Dikembe Dixon gets offered by Alabama. He's a USC target. And Clemson offered 6'5" Kevin Huter of Clifton Park, New York. We'll be right back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth and the Professor, Tom Hayes, from downtown Columbia, along with the Steak Man, Graham Pope, coming up. Going to talk some South Carolina State football with Buddy Pugh, catch up with the coach on his spring and looking ahead to the draft and everything else that concerns him. Looking at a story here, good story by Larry Williams, Tiger Illustrated. He interviewed Ben Boulware. Did not know this until I read this in this story. The Tigers linebacker, Ben Boulware, he quit football last year. He went to his parents and said he'd had enough. This was during the season. Mm-hmm. He was ready to hang it up. He just said that trying to balance football, school, and social life was just getting to him. He said he exploded. I just couldn't take it anymore. He said, I just collapsed and I tried to hang the cleats up. Says now he's a different person. So he went through that. He said he was in over his head as a business major, despite spending a lot of time studying. So I guess just the academic load, the football load, the social load, it all kind of got to him. And he went to his parents and said, will you pay for the rest of my college if I give up my scholarship? And then he met with the coaching staff and all that, and they got him sort of settled down. And
I'm not so certain.
The rest is history.
I'm not so certain that if you don't play college football and you just trying to dance with the social life in college, the regular student hits the wall too. So I can imagine there's probably more stories like that we don't hear. But you know the demands on those guys' time when they think they're actually free and they aren't. All of them have to hit the wall at some point.
If you're a subscriber to Tiger Illustrated, good story to go read. So check it out if you haven't. Written by Larry Williams. Hey, College of Charleston baseball fans, as if you needed a reason to go see your nationally ranked team, they will be selling beer the rest of the regular season at Patriots Point for the Cougars home games, actually beginning May 8th. And Charleston becomes the first public university in the state to sell alcohol at athletic competitions. This was announced by A.D. Joe Hull in a letter to Charleston fans. He said Charleston will become one of almost 90 schools serving alcohol at athletic facilities. Now, there will be a limit. You have to be over 21, et cetera, et cetera. But they feel like their research shows that you are actually able to better control alcohol consumption in these settings where you are selling the beer instead of the beer being consumed outside the park and then maybe snuck in.
I could be a consultant about ways you can sneak stuff in from our.
No, I hope they sell a high grade of beer. I mean, they're going to sell some of that. What's that stuff called?
But this is because it's at a professional stadium. It's not on campus.
No. This is the camp. Well, it's not on campus, but this is the Cougar Stadium, not the Joe. This is Patriots Point.
Okay.
And we continue to catch up with football coaches around the state of South Carolina to catch up on their spring practices. Hey, you know, it's never too soon to look ahead to the 2015 season. We welcome in Buddy Pugh from South Carolina State. Another terrific season last year, and the Bulldogs hoping to build on that once again this coming year, though. And, Coach, first of all, thanks for joining us. No playoffs for you this year. You already know that, right? Because you guys are going to try to compete to play in a bowl game and a much better payoff, correct?
We will have that opportunity, but now that's not the way it necessarily works, because you have other teams in our league that could be in the playoffs. If we have enough worthy teams, then one of our second and third place teams could possibly go to the playoffs. But right now, our championship team will go to the I think the Legacy Bowl is what we call it, and it's a championship game between us and the SWAC.
Gotcha. So if you win your championship, that's where you'll go. But if you don't win your championship, then you could end up going to the playoffs if they select an athlete.
Exactly. And the last two times we went to the playoffs, we were at large. So Bethune-Cookman won our league, and we went as the second place team. So, you know, that is a pretty distinct possibility.
Well, I mean, as a head football coach, if you win your league championship, do you like the idea of going to that bowl game and playing in that versus having a chance to play for a national championship?
Well, you know, I think you take your championship regardless what the ramifications are. At that point, you know, you think you're the conference champion. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily want to be second just to get in the playoffs. So, you know, I think I try to win the conference.
There you go. Always aim high and aim for the conference championship. Right. What'd you think of your spring? What did you accomplish? Where did you come up short in your spring work?
Well, we thought we had a pretty good spring, and we thought we had a real nice finale when we had our spring game and junior day. We had a bunch of recruit kind of guys in here for that game, and we had a nice deal for them after the game over in our gym. So, you know, we thought that went very well. But, you know, we thought our spring was good because we had a little bit of everything. We had enough players to put in pretty much all the positions. Now, that's not to say that we were deep enough to go too deep everywhere like you have to have for a true live spring game. You can't have those like you did in old days. But we did have enough tight ends. We had enough, you know, defensive linemen. You know, it was enough people that we thought we got good solid work everywhere. So I was pleased with the overall practice session.
How'd you come out of the spring injury-wise? Anybody go down that concerns you?
Well, we had one injury before spring even started. Darius Leonard, our all-conference linebacker, our freshman linebacker, who was freshman, he actually didn't practice at all, and he had a little bit of a heart deal that was plaguing him before the spring practice started, and so we held him out. We're still going through some tests with him, but we think he's going to be okay. But besides that, we have a couple other guys who have some nagging injuries and that sort, and you know, I think they'll all be okay. The only guy that we're really worried about right now is probably the Darius Leonard kid.
That would be a huge loss, would it not?
Oh, I guarantee you. We lost our other starting linebacker, Justin Hughes, last year, and through to graduation. So, you know, this guy is not only the best linebacker we got coming back, but he's also a freshman. He was the freshman of the year, actually, in our conference. So, yeah, that would be a big blow to us if we couldn't somehow or another get him back on the field.
And when will you know his status for the coming season?
Probably around the early part of June. He's got another event, doctor's appointment style kind of deal around the middle of May, and I think they'll finally get him all finished up by the 1st of June. We really think he'll be back, but at the same time, you never know when you deal with these kinds of issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, looking at your schedule, Coach, of course, this is your year to be in the SWAC MEAC Challenge. You got an early game. It's going to be hot in Orlando on September 6th when you go down there against Arkansas Pine Bluff. But then you got a burgeoning power in the FCS in Coastal Carolina right here in state, but you get them in Orangeburg and then Florida A&M, and then you have an open date. Tell me about the opening part of your schedule. And are you happy where that opening date falls fairly early in your season?
You know what, Tom? I think I am. I like the idea of opening up in Orlando. It's a bowl style kind of, event. They put together a heck of a weekend for your kids. You play on Sunday. It's the only game that's actually a college game that's happening that day. So, that's always a lot of fun. But you're also right; it is hot as all get out, and and the Citrus Bowl just got through redoing, their turf. So they just put down one of those synthetic turf fields. So it'll be hot as I can imagine, and then. Arkansas Pine Bluff, I'm sure will be really excited. One of their assistants is Anthony Jones, who used to be an assistant here and was the head coach at Alabama A&M a couple of years. So they'll be ready for us. And then we come back home after that and play Coastal. And everybody knows, what kind of job Coach Mogul has done. But I'm glad we got him in Orangeburg. They got a fantastic program down there. They got all the bells and whistles and everything you can imagine, to put a football program together. They kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing, I think. Those guys, they spend the D1 money. They got all the D1 stuff, and but they still play at our level. And then we get Florida A&M here too. So that schedule is one that's real attractive to us as far as the home games and that kind of stuff are concerned. It makes for a good year season ticket wise, and then we get a week off. And that week off we'll probably need Coastal and FAMU right behind each other.
Speaking with Buddy Pugh of South Carolina State, and you mentioned Coastal being flush with the cash, and we all know the travails of your university here in the spring. How much of that has impacted your football program?
Well, it impacts us, but we just kind of go on business as usual. We act as if nothing's going on and try to do the very best job we can of putting our best foot forward. It affects us some, but we really don't get into it that much. And, the one good thing I can say is that, it's all going to come to a head here pretty soon. And then at that point, we'll figure out where to go from there.
Are you concerned about the future of Bulldog football?
No, I think we'll figure a way to make it happen. It may not happen in the state and the form is in, at this point, we may end up having to do something, to survive. But at the same time, we've always been, a place that's used to dealing with obstacles, in our paths, and we'll figure a way to get around it or over it, around it, some under it, whatever you got to do to make it happen at that point, then we'll move on.
Yeah, I'm sure the situation has to cut deep with you because you're a grad and you've poured so much of your sweat and blood and tears into that university and that football program.
Yeah, well, of course it is. Anytime you're not only the coach here, but you got all kinds of ties and intangibles that make this place really special, to me. But at the same time, it's that way with all of our alumni. Everybody's passionate, about our issues and trials and tribulations and what have you. So, it is what it is that way. We've got to fix it. And, it may as well be now. So we need to go ahead and get it done so we can move on to the next stage.
All right. One last thing very quickly. Who came out of spring as your top QB?
Collick is back as our starting quarterback. And, we'll see how that works. But now we're bringing in a bushel load of freshmen and whatever the heck else we can find between now and then to see, what we can do to at least give him a good, solid push competition-wise. But Adrian Collick, we think, will be our starting guy in 2015.
Coach, as always, we appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of spring, summer months. We'll see you here in Columbia sometime over the summer. Look forward to seeing you on our Palmetto Pigskin Tour. And, of course, look forward to covering you in the 2015 season.
Thanks for having me, guys.
As always, we thank you. That's Buddy Pugh from South Carolina State. The Bulldog football team, the university might be having its issues, but the Bulldog football team, the Marching 101, that's still a pride of South Carolina State. They got something to feel really good about what they're doing. And if the rest of them can get their act together and perform like those two particular groups, they'll be just fine in Orangeburg. Back in a moment. And thanks again to Buddy Pugh for being with us here on Sports Talk. Always enjoy talking to the coach of the Bulldogs. We have got the match play championship underway now. They are playing this out in San Francisco. This will be great, man. If you love golf, go home and watch this on the Golf Channel on the West Coast in prime time over here. This is tremendous. In progress, Roy McIlroy is one on Jason Duffner through 7 holes. I'll just pick out some of the better matchups. Billy Herschel is 3 up through 7 against Brant Snedeker. Dustin Johnson through 12 is 1 up on Matt Jones. What else strikes my fancy here? Ricky Fowler is 3 up through 13 against Harris English. Graham McDowell is 1 up through 13. I take that back. Shane Lowry is 1 up on Graham McDowell through 13 holes today. Russell Henley is all even in his match with Brooks Koepka. They are through 15. Okay, let's see what we've got in terms of some finals. Jordan Spieth, 4-2 over Mikkelainen. Lee Westwood, a winner, 1 up over Matt Every. Patrick Reed, 2-1 winner over Andy Sullivan. Charlie Hoffman continues to play good golf, 4-3 winner over Jason Day. That's maybe a little bit of a surprise. Jason Day was a number 7 seed, so he goes down. Zach Johnson, he wins today, 2 up over Brendan Grace. Sergio Garcia, 2 up winner over Tommy Fleetwood. Let's see. Bill Haas, a winner today, number 24 seed, 3-2 over Brendan Todd. Ben Martin, he wins 1 up over Matt Kuchar. That's a heck of a win for old Ben from Greenwood. Mark Leishman, 3-2 over Justin Rose. Big surprise there. How about that? Justin Rose, the number 6 seed, he goes down. And let's see here. Webb Simpson, 3-2 winner over Ian Poulter. Bubba Watson, 5-4 over Miguel Angel Jimenez. Louis Oosthuizen, 6-5 over Keegan Bradley. I mean, that's a rout, 6-5. Let's see here. What else? Jim Furyk, a winner, 3-2 over George Cutsey. And Martin Keimer, 3-1 winner over Chang'e JD. So there you go. That's most all the matches. So they're off and running there, and going to be pretty exciting over the weekend. The number 1 seed is Rory McIlroy, and he is winning his match right now. So that is what's happening at the World Match Play Championships, the Cadillac Match Play out in San Francisco. All right, let's see. Coming up, we will have some more guests for you here. As a matter of fact, coming up after the bottom of the hour break, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about Coastal Carolina athletics. The Chanticleer is having another terrific athletic year, and Chris Johnson, who is the director of the Chanticleer Athletic Foundation, is going to join us to talk about some of the good things going on with Coastal Athletics. That's coming up next here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back. All right, over in Atlanta. Braves are winning. After last night, I'm not so sure that's a good thing. They're up 2-1 over Washington. They're in the top of the second. See if the Braves can hang on this time around. No college baseball in the state today. I think a lot of teams are off because of exams and things of that nature. Big series coming up, however. Coastal Carolina coming off a win last night at Wilmington. Wilmington, a good team, and now they're going to head to Florida State, take on the Seminoles. That would be an opportunity for Coastal to really boost its RPI and its status for the tournament. We already told you they're projected right now as a number 2 seed, but to go out to Arizona. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about Coastal Carolina athletics. If you haven't noticed, folks, it's an athletic program that is blowing up in so many ways. Chris Johnson is the executive director of the Chanticleer Athletic Foundation, and he joins us. Chris, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Phil. It's a pleasure to be with you all.
Oh, our pleasure as well. Thanks for joining us. And I don't think I'm over speaking when I talk about a program that is blowing up. That is what Coastal Carolina is from an athletic standpoint.
Well, you're absolutely right. They are, the exciting times that are to Coastal Carolina University are not slowing down. And when you look past just even our state, if you go more on a national scale, you look at the ACC, the SEC, the Pac-12, Power 5 universities we're talking about that have enrollments, athletic budgets that are 6 and 7 times our size. We are not only competing with those schools, we are in many cases having the opportunity to leave the field of competition with a victory. And it is exciting, but that's part of why we wanted to be with you tonight, was to share some of those stories to make sure that everyone right here at home and in this state knows what we're doing.
Well, it starts with coaches. I mean, you got to have the athletes. Don't get me wrong. You have to have the talent, but really you've got a very strong coaching base at Coastal. And if you just focus on the big 3 sports, you look at Joe Moglia, you look at Cliff Ellis, you look at Gary Gilmore, you would put those 3 up against anybody at a comparable sized institution, and you would fare. Absolutely. You would compare very, very well. In fact, probably lead in most cases.
We've been very fortunate. You just hit it with the coaches that we have had here at the university to our president, our board of trustees. They have all been keenly aware of the impact that athletics really does have on a university as a whole. Not only the university, but a community, a region. And there's a commitment to that. And I guess I'm fortunate enough to be a part of that at this time. And the sky's the limit. I often share with so many that as many positive impacts and changes that have occurred over the last, let's say, 10 years at Coastal, the next 10 years are really going to define what this university becomes. And the sky's the limit. Right here back at home, we like to talk about South Carolina and Clemson, and we want to talk about Coastal Carolina more. And I say this humbly, but we hope that someday down the road that we're not talking about Coastal Carolina as the third school, but there's so many great schools, but we have high ambitions, and we think the sky is the limit.
What do you? I mean, from an ambition standpoint, I know you're not the athletic director or the school president. I mean, you're not. I'm sure you're involved in conversations of that nature. I don't know about the decision-making process, but I mean, you talk about the ambitions. What are the ambitions in the athletic department at Coastal? Where do the leaders want to take it down the road?
Well, let me start with saying that, you mentioned the athletic director and, of course, president. We're fortunate enough to have Matt Hogue on board now as our new athletic director, just named it recently as the full-time AD. And you couldn't have someone that's more in touch and aware of the pulse of college athletics probably than Matt. He's, as you probably well know, Matt been the voice of the Chanticleers for many years here along the Grand Strand. But to answer your question, as we look strategically as what do we become and how do we grow, we do look at athletics. We're an NCAA Division I school with currently 18 sports that are competing, a plan for a 19th, that being the sand volleyball coming in the future. You look at football with that FBS and the FCS kind of breakdown, and who knows? And that really depends in all sincerity on how the community as a whole, how our alumni, how the local businesses and others get behind this university. I think the sky is the limit as to what happens. Could we be in the big picture as far as when you talk about the FBS program someday? Sure, it's a possibility, but what's in our best interest and how do we get there, and do we get the support to accomplish that?
Mm-hmm.
a tremendously burgeoning university. You guys are growing by leaps and bounds, and part of any engine, including athletic engine, is the fervor of your fans, especially the alumni. What has been some of the response of this infusion of just great coaching and athletics at Coastal Carolina? What has that meant to the alumni of the school?
That's a great point you make when you talk about the alum. It is so fun when we get alumni that haven't been on campus for a while to get back here. Let's say they've been gone for the last 5 or 10 years. We are growing so quickly. And when I say growing, you talk about the new academic buildings that are coming up on campus. And if you look at athletically and with the residence halls being built and the expansion taking place, our alumni get back on campus and they say, I don't even recognize the place. And it's exciting to get the opportunity to share with individuals. Look at these facilities. Now, on the athletic side of things, one of my most favorite parts of the day is if I have someone coming on campus for a visit or a tour, their eyes open big and they said, I had no idea Coastal Carolina was doing this. And it's fun because the facilities, they're coming. We need to expand a few of them, but you look at our baseball facility, for example. Tammy Brooks has been an incredible benefactor to the university. We've just named the stadium in her honor. In fact, we're going to commemorate the stadium on May 9th. But we believe, and as you mentioned, Coach Gilmore, he's been to so many different baseball stadiums around the country. He believes we have one of the very top facilities in the nation, and it's something we're proud of. But we get individuals on campus. They look around. They walk through, whether it's the football locker room or the new baseball stadium, or they take a look at the HTC Center, or they see TD Bank's name on our sports complex as an entirety. And they're like, what are you guys doing here? Well, we've been very fortunate. We've been blessed, and we keep our heads down and keep working. But that's part, again, why we're happy to be with you tonight to try to spread that word a little further out.
Yeah, and your job, of course, is to help raise money and get members into your foundation, contributors, supporters of the athletic program. But is it a battle when you've got, the big animals like Clemson and South Carolina and their far-reaching fandom, and you're trying to get your little section and get and raise your money in those pockets where Carolina and Clemson don't dominate? Is that a tough battle for you?
It is. In all sincerity, it is difficult at times, but it's one of those battles that we've learned to accept, and we embrace it and we welcome it. Coastal has a tie to its roots originally with the University of South Carolina, and as we broke away in 1993, something that's been, a challenge that we have to move past is alum that attended the school, prior to 93. Some have a great allegiance to Coastal Carolina University because that's where they made their friendships. That's where they remember the teachers and the different faculty that instructed them, and where maybe they met their future spouse. But the bottom line is there is some that carry an allegiance still to South Carolina, and then there are some that really carry the allegiance to Coastal's where I was, where I had those relationships. And what our story is, we share, support both of these institutions if you have a reason to. The same with Clemson. Fantastic schools around this state, but as we look at it, we really believe we have a prime opportunity. We're obviously the fastest growing university, not only in the state, but regionally, and we could challenge for that nationally. But, we want to embrace, Clemson fans, South Carolina fans, North Carolina fans that may live closer to the Grand Strand area. Take a look at what we're doing. We might be a good opportunity here for you to come experience some high-level competitive sports, entertainment venues at great facilities with maybe not all the distance you might have to travel if you're along the coast to head to Columbia or to head to Clemson. So those are some of the things we try to spin. And then, we try to push all the other intangibles that, the things we have available to us right now, you can make them better. If you want to see us be even more on the national level, let us know, because as you look at, as you mentioned.
Hang on 1 second, Chris. We got to hit a quick break. We'll come right back to you. And we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, brought to you by the Palmetto Project. Call 888-998-4646 to enroll in a health plan and avoid paying next year's tax penalty. More on that coming up here in just a couple of moments. I want to get back to Chris Johnson. One more moment from the Chanticleer Foundation, and I wanted you to have a chance before we let you go to tell folks how they can reach out to you if there are Chanticleer fans out there and they haven't become involved, or maybe somebody who's on the fence, not sure, and they want to become involved. How can they reach you?
I appreciate that. Quickly, if they would wish to visit our website, you reach the audience at goccusports.com. You can find the CAF there. But I want to go back real quickly to one question you asked about trying to draw other fans here. You know, through March of this year, I'd like your folks to know that Coastal currently ranks around 34th in the nation out of 353 NCAA Division I institutions in the Learfield Sports Directors Cup. You know, so you look at those kind of things. That's how we're getting excitement and we're building it. And Phil, I would like to extend to you too. I think it's been years and years, but I heard this. Brett Graham, our director of development, told me he recently played golf with you down here on the Grand Strand. But,
he did.
We'd like to get you back down here. I think years ago that you may have broadcast live from one of our, probably wouldn't even been the Athletic Foundation game at the time, but you came down for a gala. And I want you to put this on your calendar, and I want your audience to hear it as well, that Friday, August the 28th, we have our annual Chanticleer Athletic Foundation Gala. It's a special night. There's always surprises, but I'd like you to invite your whole crew down. If you want to broadcast live from the Grand Strand in Myrtle Beach, we're going to be at the Sheridan Hotel and Convention Center, and then I'll be thrilled to have you guys as our guests for the evening. So just keep that in mind. But you can find us on the web, and again, we're here to raise money for the student athletes, everything from scholarships to the facilities in which they compete, to training and rehabilitation equipment, you name it. That's what we do at the CAF.
That's great, and we thank you for the invitation. And yes, been there several times for that, and we'll try to make it down there August 28th, even though that's a high school Friday night. It's before the college season begins, so I think maybe we might take you up on that, Chris. And thank you for the visit tonight. We'll keep in touch. Chris Johnson, Executive Director of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleer Foundation. That is a program that is, well, they got great leadership. Our buddy Matt Hogue at the top of the athletic department, their president, and their coaches, as I mentioned. They just put in teal turf inside their football stadium, so they're going to get a lot of notoriety for that, not to mention the fact that they play great football down there as well. So thanks to Chris for coming on with us tonight here on Sports Talk. All right. I mentioned a little while ago that the Palmetto Project, of course, a sponsor here on Sports Talk, and we're getting down to the deadline for you to avoid paying a penalty for not having medical insurance. We welcome into Sports Talk Shelly Quinga from the Palmetto Project, who can shake her finger at you and say, hey, if you haven't gotten it done, you better get it done by tomorrow. Is that right, Shelly?
That's right. Tomorrow is the last day that you can enroll and avoid that penalty for next year. And that's only for those people who paid a penalty already on their tax return, or will when they file their return for 2014. So it's definitely, time is of the essence right now.
Yeah. So what kind of penalty are we talking about?
Well, for the next year, if you are uninsured in 2015, the penalty, the lowest it could be, is $325 per individual adult. And what more likely is going to be is 2% of your taxable income. So for some folks, that's a high price to pay for being uninsured and taking that kind of risk with your health.
All right. So for people listening to us around the state, they hear you, they don't want to face a penalty, they want to get signed up. What's the easiest thing for them to do between tonight and tomorrow?
Well, the quickest way to get enrolled is to go online to healthcare.gov or to call the Federal Health Insurance Marketplace at 1-800-318-2596. But if they have questions or feel like they need some in-person assistance, we have certified insurance navigators around the state that can meet with people tomorrow, and they can reach us by calling 1-888-998-4646. 4646. And anytime tomorrow, you can speak to a live person. If you're on the website and have questions, we can kind of guide you through that process and help you make the right decision for your family.
Are you expecting a crush of people tomorrow to try to get signed up?
Well, we are a nation of procrastinators. So, yes, I am probably going to get a crush of people tomorrow, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sure you're prepared for it, and hopefully it will go smoothly. And again, for folks who want to reach out to you guys for some help, that number again is 888-998-4646. 888-998-4646. Thank you, Shelley Quinga from the Palmetto Project, for joining us here on Sports Talk. We'll be back in a moment. I hate it when the Yankees lose during the day. That just kind of ruins my night. We had a chance to win this game today, too. But it's hard to win when you strike out 16 times. 16 times they struck out. In my high school baseball career, it'd take 4 or 5 games for me to strike out 16 times.
Okay.
Anyway, Detroit beat Minnesota 10-7. Tampa Bay beat the Yankees 3-2 and 13. Baltimore, with nobody watching, beat the White Sox. So that's the question. If a baseball game is played and nobody's there to see it, was it actually played?
Yes, because the guys from Elias was there keeping the records, I guess.
Yeah, they did have media there and scouts. But, I don't believe there was any PA. I was watching a little bit of the game. I didn't hear anybody being announced now batting number 27, Chris Davis.
But they had the play-by-play guys. They were doing the game.
Well, yeah, the TV and radio guys were. But that had to be surreal for the players. First time in baseball history, Major League Baseball history, that they played a real game and did not allow fans into the park. Houston drubbed San Diego. Boy, Houston continues to be a pleasant surprise. 7-2, 7-2 over San Diego. Did I say Milwaukee beat Cincinnati 8-3? Ongoing, Braves up 2-1, bottom of the third over Washington. KC leads Cleveland 4-3 in the sixth. Boston, this won't make my night any better, leading Toronto 3-1 in the seventh. Yankees go to that dump known as Fenway this weekend. Mets in Miami, 2-2 in the 8th. You know, when I last went to Boston and went to Fenway Park, I spat on the Green Monster. Nobody was watching, but yep.
Man.
Just had to show my disrespect. Pittsburgh and the Cubs coming up. Seattle and Texas coming up. Philadelphia and St. Louis coming up. Colorado, Arizona. Angels in Oakland and San Francisco and the Dodgers out west. No college baseball, but things will start to heat up here pretty soon. No college baseball in our state, but things will heat up here pretty soon. South Carolina, Auburn beginning on Friday. Clemson and Louisville coming up on Saturday. We'll do more previewing those series coming up. And
let's see, Freddie Freeman has another RBI, so it's 3-1 Atlanta. By the way, the report is coming out now that the Browns want to offer picks 12 and 19. They got 2 number 1 picks to move up and to the Titans' number 2 choice and take.
Can't
Marcus
they just be
Mariota.
happy with Connor Shaw at quarterback up in Cleveland?
No.
I mean, you know, if you had your druthers, who would you want? I mean, first of all, what a failure of an organization you are. I mean, it's embarrassing in back-to-back years to choose a quarterback number 1, because that number 1 tells you don't have any faith in the guy you chose number 1 the previous year.
That's correct.
It's an admission of a mistake.
Right, and they'll say he's a commodity. Anybody want him, we'll trade him.
Yeah, no, sir. Thank you, State Man. We worked you hard tonight. You did a fine job. Thank you, Pro. Thanks to all of you, and we'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.